Hello and welcome to another episode of the ranking series. Today we will be ranking Final Fantasy games, starting with the first and moving up through the mainline series. We won't be getting into any of the others, but just jumping over, it's fine. We'll start with FF1 and move our way through the main lines, including 11 and 14. Wanted to make sure we got those in here. So yeah, FF1. FF1 is... It's storyline-wise... The story is fun. I like the story a lot. I don't think it holds up to a lot of the other ones. As much fun as Garland Will Knock You All Down is. There's a lot of just kind of go, you know? And yeah, that's the way a lot of games were designed back then. But I do think it could have done a better job of telling you where to go. Now, granted, after you've beaten it once or twice, you know where to go from then on. But for new players, it can be a little bit tough getting into. It is very easy to get your hands on now, though. It's on basically everything, although a lot of it is the terrible mobile version. But I do think it's a very good game. I think it's a firm B here. And our tiers today are triple S, S, A, B, C, D, and E. It might be a C. You know, it's fine. It does the job fine. You can play it today. You'll get a feel for what Final Fantasy used to be way back when in the first game. But I just don't think it stands up compared to some of the others. Although I do love the soundtrack. We're going to do a separate list of this just for the soundtracks. Final Fantasy II. I love the story in 2. I really do. I think the ideas of 2 are really cool. And let me know in the comments down below if you have a completely different opinion on 2. But I think 2 is not fun to play. I think the issue that I have with 2 is that you level by getting, like, you level HP by getting hit. And it's just like, man, I don't like that leveling system at all. I think you could do some interesting things with it, but I don't know. I think the story goes some really interesting places, especially towards the end. And Minwu's pretty cool, but, you know, I think that's a firm D for me. And again, this list is just my opinion. Let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. Final Fantasy III, that's going to go in C alongside Final Fantasy I. I think FF3 is fine. It does the job fine. It has the job system. It's pretty cool. I just don't really like playing it. I don't think those characters, because the main characters aren't characters really in 3. I don't think they're very interesting in the same way that in 1 they're really not characters, you know? I don't think Cloud of Darkness is anywhere near as interesting as Garland is, or the Emperor. But I do think from a gameplay level, it is perfectly serviceable. It can be quite fun. I'm just not a huge fan of it myself. Again, though, pretty easy to get your hands on now. Mobile version's out in a lot of places. The DS version still exists, of course. So, Final Fantasy IV. That's an S. That's an S. And again, the only reason I'm not giving it, because this is my subjective list, but I am trying to look at the problems they have, you know? The only reason that I'm not putting it higher is because the after years. I've talked to a lot of people over the years that have gone, yeah, but to play FF4, I have to play after years, right? Like, no. First off, you don't. Second off, you probably shouldn't. After years is really odd. But I think FF4 is a really solid Final Fantasy game. I think it's got a great story. One of the best. I may wind up moving it up to triple S and just forgetting about the after years and just not caring about it. Because I think it's really good. I think the story of Cecil as he tries to, you know, become the hero that he always thought he was is really good. I think the original version's really solid. I think the DS version's really solid. The GBA version's really solid. They all have their differences and they all have their little intricacies that make them worth playing, you know. I think they're really good. Kane, Edge, Rydia, Edge. In some ways, Edge might be a little too much in some places, but Edge is still really cool. The stuff with Rose is really good, how she doesn't just want to be a damsel. Edward and Tella, Palamaporum, it's going triple S. It's going triple S. I'm going to get some flack for that in the comments. I can already feel it, but it's going triple S. To let me know where you would have put Final Fantasy IV on this list, but I think Final Fantasy IV is masterclass when it comes to Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy V! That's going to go in an A tier. 5 is really solid. I think 5 starts out really slow, but if you can get through the first couple hours, you will find a very, very wonderful job system. You'll find a pretty good story. It's not one of my favorites, but it's not one of my least favorites either. And I really like Ferris and Galuf. Bart's just doesn't really do much for me, you know? Exdeath is a cool villain, and then the stuff going on with Gilgamesh is really cool, but Bart's himself is kind of just there half the time. But at the same time, I think it's a really good game. I like it quite a bit. And the job system, top tier. Final Fantasy VI Masterclass. Masterclass Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy VI is amazing. Final Fantasy VI has some of the best written characters in all of Final Fantasy. Has some of the best music, which again, we're going to have a whole separate list for this just for music. But it has some of the best music. It has some of my favorite story beats in all of Final Fantasy. The stuff with Locke and Rachel. The stuff with Edgar and Sabin. I don't know why I tried to say Sabin there. And the stuff with Cyan and his family and the ghost train and everything that happens there. You can suplex that train too. And then that's not even to get into Terra, you know, and I do think out of all the characters, Terra might be one of the weaker ones because she's out of the story for so long, but I think while she's there and the stuff going on with her while she's there is really good. And her relationship with Kefka is really interesting as well. And again, you get so many characters that you can do so much with. I guess Terra weakest is not quite right. Gal would probably be the weakest. Man, 6 is good. 6 is great. If you have not played 6, you should. 7! Put 7 in an S tier. I know there's a lot of people that go, 7, so overrated. And it is. I'm going to be honest with you. It is overrated. However, I still think it's a good game. I don't think it's end-all be-all Final Fantasy, right? There's some long periods of time dedicated to going back and forth with fetch quests, which, to be fair, that's in 4 and 6 as well, but I love all the characters just about. Kate Sith would probably be, Kashi would probably be the only one that I just don't really super care for, you know? Maybe Yuffie. I'm not a huge fan of Yuffie. She's fine, but I think 7 has suffered a lot from the expanded universe with 7. Advent Children hurt people's opinion of 7 a lot because those characters in Advent Children are in some ways different characters, right? What has become of Aerith is not the same Aerith that she was in 7, you know, in a lot of ways. But I do think 7 as a game is really solid. I think it's a really good game. I like the characters, like the music, like the story quite a bit. I really do like Cloud as a character. I think what they do with him in that game is really good. And Sephiroth's a good villain in that game. Again, I won't speak for any other games or any other movies, but in that game, he's really good. I'm probably going to make some people mad here, but I'm going to put Final Fantasy VIII in a B. Final Fantasy VIII is good. It has some of the most interesting summons in the entire series. Only to be matched with 12 when it comes to super interesting summons. It has some interesting characters. I love Laguna. I like Renoa well enough, and I like Squall well enough, but I love Laguna. I just don't think the rest of the cast really brings it to the table the way that the other games do. And as much as I like the music, and I like the story and everything going on in Balam Garden, especially the stuff with Laguna and Edea and everything there, it doesn't hit as hard as some of the other ones do on this list for me. But again, more than happy. You want to make your own list with this, let me know in the comments down below, and I will check it out. I'm more than happy to see what everybody else thinks. FF9! You saw where I was dragging it. You saw where I was trying to drag it. It got up there. Masterclass. FF9 is amazing. I may move it down to an S solely because of the animations. I know a lot of people don't like the animations in 9. I think they're beautiful. I think they look so good. I think the background is amazing. Characters look great. I love the character design. The story is great. I love the characters in 9. Man, you have Beatrice, you have Dagger, you have Zidane, you have Vivi, Freya, Steiner. Man, there's so many good characters. And where the story goes with the question of, you know, who am I? Well, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be human? You know, what is the difference between you and me? And the places it goes there as it explores the story of Zidane and the story of Vivi, I think are really good. It's a really great game, and if you haven't played it, you should. Also, Melodies of Life is amazing, but we have a different video just for the soundtrack, so look forward to that. Final Fantasy X. I'm torn on 10, because on the one hand, I do like 10 a lot. I like a lot of the stuff that happens in 10 story-wise. On the other hand, I find 10 to be really slow. Like, it takes a while for 10 to get going. 10 has some of the best music in the franchise as well. That battle theme in 10 is breathtaking. And then you have everything with Auron, you have the stuff with Waka and his brother and Lulu, but then you also have how super racist Waka is all the time. Riku, I think, is not as developed as well as she could be. Yuna herself is kind of cast to the wayside when it comes to development until about like 2/3 of the way in. Lulu gets some good development. Auron gets some good development. Titus, because I'm going to call him Titus. I'm not going to call him Titus. I might accidentally call him Titus. Titus gets some good development. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably going to go in an A tier. I think it is a good game. I definitely think it's a good game. I just don't know that it's as good to me as I see some other people make it out to be. I think it's got a really good story. I think the setting's very unique for Final Fantasy, especially around this time where it was all like super fantasy world, super sciencey, mechanical stuff, and then Spira is just like this water world almost, you know? I hate the temples though so much. So much. So yeah, it's gonna go at an A rank. Mechanically though, top notch. Be able to switch party members out mid combat, top notch. Final Fantasy XI. I'm gonna give that a B. 11 had a lot of problems, but 11 also has a pretty solid story. It had some interesting NPCs. It had some amazing music, and it has Absolute Virtue, which is the one boss in a game that I've never been able to beat. So, in the way it was originally intended. Now you can go back and beat it because it's easy. I do like 11. I think 11 was a lot of fun. I don't like it as much as I like another MMO that's on this list, but 11's really good. 12 is also going to get an A rank for me, though. I'm going to put it above 10, and I'm probably going to put it above 5, too. Final Fantasy XII is really solid. I like the characters a lot, except for Vaughn and Pinello. I like the story a lot, except for Vaughn and Pinello. I like the summons, and I love the license gauge. That's not what it's called. The license table, the license point guide. License board. That's what it's called. Goodness sake. I love the license board. I love everything about this game except for Vaughn and Pinello because they shouldn't have been in the game. They don't add anything to the story. Vaughn wanting to be a sky pirate should have been a cool thing with Balthier, and then that never really develops, you know? And then Bosch is so interesting, but he gets shoved to the side so Vaughn can talk, and it's like, Vaughn, you have no stake. Why are you even here now? However, it's just Star Wars, and so I love it. No, 12 is really good. 12 has, again, some really interesting summons, really unique summons. I love the hunt system in 12. I think it's really good. 13. I'm torn on 13. It's either going to go in a D or an F. Mainly just because, man, 13 it's rough. The story of 13's not bad. It just isn't told the way it really needs to be told, you know? Like, you get bits and pieces here and there, and then you get big dumps for a little while, and then bits and pieces again. And if what happens in Chapter 11 of the game had happened in Chapter 3 of the game, I think it would have been fine. I'm not one of those people that goes, you know, hey, it's too linear. Because 10's super linear, right? But when you get to the end of the game, you don't really have any big investment in... I hate to say this, but Vanille, right? Like, why is she there? What is she doing there? We find out why at the end when she does the thing with Fang, but like, I didn't have any investment in her at all. Lightning's story trying to save her sister was fine. Snow trying to, but why was there not more time spent on Lightning and Snow's relationship as they both wanted to save Sarah, but both didn't like each other? You know, the stuff with Hope is really interesting and could have gone to some really cool places with him wanting revenge on Snow, and then it's just dropped like it never existed. And then Saz is just wasted for most of that game. He doesn't even do anything for half the game. And he's such an interesting character in that first cutscene. I think we're probably going to put it F tier, even though I really like the combat in 13. I think the Paragon system where you can switch between the different Paragons is really cool. 14! S-Class. I would put it in the triple S, because I do think it's Masterclass in the form of Final Fantasy MMOs, especially after Shadowbringers. But there's like 200 quests between ARR and Heavensward, and as long as that is a barrier that stops people from being able to enjoy the game as much as, you know, they might want to, I'm gonna have to keep it in an S tier. I do think 14 is a really good Final Fantasy game, especially after Shadowbringers. I think it's one of the best. But I do have to remember that this list is not Shadowbringers. It is Final Fantasy XIV. And the first 40 levels or so can get pretty rough, especially the stuff around the time of gathering stuff for Titan and then the feast. And it's just like, man, okay. But I definitely pulls out of it when you get into the stuff with Shadowbringers and even the stuff with like Heavensward. And Stormblood is not one that people talk about as highly as Heavensward and Shadowbringers, but Stormblood's still really good. Stormblood has some really nice story beats there and some really shocking moments. But I just don't think, because of that stuff in early ARR, that it can really stack quite as highly up there. And then 15. This is controversial for a lot of people. I'm going to put 15 in an S as well. I really liked 15. I'm expecting dislikes on this video because of that now. But I really liked 15. And what I like the most about 15 is that it is a character-driven story about those characters, and those characters have to grow over the course of the story. The cast is small. It's just the main four, really. But because it's small, they're able to spend some more time on those four and able to help develop them. With that said, it's not a triple S tier, because I don't think the relationship between Gladio and Noctis got worked out as well as it needs to. I don't think that the surprise towards the end with Prompto is integrated as well as it could be. I don't think they spend enough time on that at all to work that out. But I absolutely adore the story of Noctis and his friends going across country. There's a lot of problems with it, absolutely. But that campsite cutscene gets me every time. And just, you guys are the best. So that's my list. Let's rank them in their tiers. I think this is really good. 4, 6, 9. I really love 4. I don't know if I made that clear. I really love 4. 7, 14, 15, 12, 5, 10. And I know this is like heretical, right? That 15 is above 12. But I like 15 more than I like 12. I'm sorry. I really do. I know that it has its problems, but I really like it. And I like the combat too, which I think helps a lot. But then we have 12, 5, 10, 9, 11, or 8, 11, sorry. 1, 3, 2, and 13. I think this is pretty good. Let me know in the comment section down below what your list would have been, and I will see you guys when we do the soundtrack list. But until next time, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum Final Fantasy has to offer.